Hey, what's going on YouTube? Jake here with Venture Visuals, and today we are going to be breaking down 3 ways to use rotoscoping. Now, if you've been following along on any of my other videos, you know I'm in love with rotoscoping. I don't know a lot of video editors who aren't in love with rotoscoping because the possibilities for what you create is infinite. Today, we're just going to be breaking down some really cool ways to use rotoscoping in your next creative edit. So let's jump right into it. So we're here in Premiere Pro, and as you can see, I got an old music video pulled up here on my timeline, and I've already marked up here where we're gonna do some rotoscoping. So as I can see right here, I can just go to this marker. If you want to make a marker in Premiere Pro, it's pretty easy. You just hit M, which stands for marker. M, marker. Pretty self-explanatory. But anyways, I'm back here at this first marker, and we're gonna go ahead and do some rotoscoping in this area. So as you can see, this clip goes from this clip of him kind of brushing his legs off, and then it's him kind of flexing in front of his car. Actually, a pretty dope car that day. I was very stoked to be shooting with him because, you know, his outfit was fire and the car was fire. So, you know, when you got the outfit, car combination, good things happen. The first rotoscope effect we're gonna do is just a basic rotoscope transition, right? So I wanna rotoscope him out of this frame and have him kind of come in to the frame above this clip, right? So it's just gonna be a cutout of him sliding across the frame. So in order to do this, we gotta take this clip up here, we gotta drag it above our clip that is beside it, okay? And we're gonna make a cut, right? So now we have this. So we have boom, boom. So it's gonna be pretty quick. You can see it's only about like a second, maybe 2 seconds worth of cut here. And so now what we're gonna do is just right click it. We're gonna hit replace with After Effects composition. So if you didn't know already, rotoscoping is done in Adobe After Effects. They don't have it in Adobe Premiere Pro. That'd be crazy if they figured out a way to incorporate it somehow, because this effect, I use it all the time and it would just speed up the workflow if that was the case. But it's not. We have to open up Adobe After Effects. So now the cool thing about this is that because we just right clicked on it in Premiere Pro and said replace with After Effects composition, it's going to sync up automatically. We're not gonna have to re-export this from After Effects once we get our effect, okay? So we're just gonna call this Rotoscope example. We'll save it, and you can see it just pulls it in perfectly right here into our composition. Now what we need to do is come up here to our Rotobrush tool and double click on this layer and start to Rotobrush. Now you might notice that we have this frame rate error, right? So it says 59.94 FPS to match the layer source. What this means when this error pops up is that the composition settings up here at the top don't match the same settings that we shot in. So I actually export all my music videos to 23.976 frames per second or 24 frames per second, but I shoot every clip in 60 frames per second or higher. This enables me to get super smooth slow motion when I want to. So as you can see here, our composition is in 23 frames per second, but our clip is in 59.94 frames per second. So an easy fix to this, and this is something that I should have done before jumping here into After Effects, is come back to Premiere Pro. We're just gonna go ahead and hit Command Z to undo our link, right? Our dynamic link to After Effects, and you'll see the clip is still here, just like how it was in Premiere Pro. So what we need to do to fix this frame rate issue is just right click on this clip and hit nest. Now you should really do this before rotoscoping anything because it will just save you some time and headache when it comes to the frame rates. So now that it's nested, we're just gonna go replace with After Effects composition. And now when I go to rotoscope, it'll work just fine. We don't get any error message at all. So as you can see here, I am just tracing around him. Now I did click on my Rotobrush tool at the top to get this purple line going around him, and I'm just gonna trace him out here, okay? So it's real easy to trace things with the Rotobrush tool. Now, as you can see, he's not in focus, so the program is actually guessing that it wants me to get the background in this tracing as well, which I don't. I just want him to be traced out. So I'm just gonna keep going around his outline, and when there's little areas of the frame that I don't want traced, I'm just gonna hold Option and drag over those areas so it deletes those areas. Let's zoom up a little bit here so we get a better idea. Now what I can do is just hit 2 on my keyboard, and that's just gonna go frame by frame here, and it's gonna show me what is getting traced out. So the Rotobrush tool does a great job at just kind of guessing what you want traced out. So that's why as I'm going more frames to the right here, it's already tracing him out even though he's moving around. I don't have to trace every frame manually, right? So that's a pretty dope feature of rotoscoping. It's just that it goes pretty fast. And as you can see, we've reached the end of our composition. We've rotoscoped every single frame here. You can see the purple line looks good around his outline. And this is just gonna be one of those very quick transitions, right? So now I'm gonna come back to the composition here at the top, and now we can see the cutout on the transparent background. So what we're gonna do now is just hit P on our keyboard with this sequence selected, and that's gonna pull up our position keyframe, right? So we're gonna go ahead and just make a keyframe where he's at currently, because this is where he's gonna line up with the next shot. We don't wanna change anything about the actual shot. We wanna change what it looks like when he comes into the shot, okay? So he's gonna line up perfectly where this clip meets back in Premiere Pro, and you'll see what that means here in a second, okay? So we're just gonna come back now to the very first frame, and we're just gonna drag him over to the right a little bit so he's kind of out of the frame. So now he's gonna slide into the frame, right? We have this keyframe here and this keyframe here. What I'm gonna do now is just right click on this second keyframe, come down to Keyframe Assistant and hit Easy Ease In. And then I'm also gonna turn motion blurring on for this layer, and you're gonna see it needs to re-render the rotoscope for that. And now you'll see it's got that like motion blur effect going on to it, which is gonna overall just make it look a little bit smoother, okay? So now what I'm gonna do is just hit Command S, and that's just gonna save this composition directly back into Adobe Premiere Pro. So as you can see now, we got it over the transparent background, which underneath this layer of him cut out is this video layer right here. So he's sliding in over that video layer, and then you'll see it lines up perfectly with the next clip, right? What I'm gonna do here is just hit I on my keyboard, come over here to the right side on my timeline and hit O, so we have our in and out point set. And what I'm gonna do is just hit Sequence, Render Into Out. And this is gonna render our effect in full motion, so there is no glitchiness to it. It's rendered out how it should look. And we're just gonna hit play here. So you'll see very easy, slick transition for music videos. I see this being used a lot, and I think it's a really dope staple of like music video editing. So rotoscoping's awesome. Let's move on to the second rotoscope trick. So now we're gonna talk about how to trace your subject using rotoscoping and add like cool effects to it, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and take this clip of him here, for example. We're gonna go ahead and just copy it by holding the Option key and dragging it up, and then we're gonna go ahead and hit Nest because we're gonna be rotoscoping it, right click on it, replace with After Effects composition. It gets pulled back into After Effects just like how it worked the first time. And again, guys, we're gonna come up here to our Rotobrush, and I'm just gonna give this guy a little bit of a tracing here, and we'll go ahead and skip this part a little bit because I kinda just showed you guys how to do this part, which is just tracing the object. So I'm gonna go ahead and just fast forward this part and get this done so I can show you guys what it's gonna look like. Okay, so now we got him fully traced out. If I scroll back here, you can see we got that purple line going around him nice and neat like that. So what I'm gonna do is come back here to our composition, and you can see we got him perfectly traced out of the background. So now what we need to do is export this as a transparent MOV file. So what we're gonna do is hit Add to Render Queue. We're gonna come down here to Lossless. We're gonna go Lossless with Alpha, which stands for transparency. And we're just gonna call this transparent. And we're gonna save it to our desktop. We're gonna hit render, okay? So that's gonna render our rotoscope, which does a lot of good for us because this next effect relies on us being able to trace our rotoscope layer. So as you can see, my desktop's pretty messy. I'm gonna come up here and drag our transparent layer that we just traced right into the video. And you can see here, we got that, the old layer turned off, and we have the transparent layer that we just rendered turned on. So the reason I render it as an MOV is because if we try to auto trace this layer with the rotoscopes, Adobe After Effects gets really confused and it doesn't do a good job auto tracing. So in order to trace movement, you need to render whatever it is that you're tracing out to an MOV file. So with this transparent rotoscope layer that we just rendered, we're gonna come up here to layer, and we're gonna hit auto trace, okay? And we're gonna make sure that it's set on work area, And you also want to make sure that this invert is deselected. You do not want this invert selected right here, okay? You also want to make sure that it's checked right here where it says apply to new layer, and we're just going to hit OK. So what this is going to do is it's going to trace all the movement from our rotoscope layer, and it's going to create an outline around every frame that is rotoscoped. You see that there? So that's really cool looking already. Obviously, we're gonna manipulate this and make it look a little more natural. So what we need to do is just drag our Autotrace layer below our actual cutout layer so it's matched up perfectly. And now you can put any effect on your rotoscope layers, but for this Autotrace technique, I love throwing on the Saber plugin because it's a free plugin that gives off this awesome glow for your objects, and I see it getting used in a lot of music videos, and it's one of my favorite plugins. So I'll include a link for it down below. It's completely free. You can try it out. So what we're gonna do is just take the Saber plugin and put it on the Autotrace layer, and it's gonna look like this at first. So what we need to do is just go to Customize Core, change the core type from Saber to Layer Masks, and you can see it traces them out perfectly. Now one more thing we need to do here is come down to Render Settings and change our composite settings from black to transparent so it's glowing on a plain background. Now you can see here we got some messiness with the tracing, so all we have to do is figure out where those points are right here, and we're just gonna go ahead and delete all these little points in here that are kind of messing up the whole shape outline, because these points don't really matter. You're not gonna notice much difference, and it is just kind of messing up the whole look of it. So you might have to do that a little bit. You might have to delete some points. You might have to add some points. So it does take a little bit of time to perfect, but now that you can see I deleted all those little points, we got a clean tracing of him where he's kind of glowing. Looks awesome. Now the cool thing about Saber is that it comes with all these presets, so you know we can change his lookup however, and there's just a never-ending list of like glow presets with this plugin. So it's a very, very cool plugin. I use it all the time for different stuff. I mean, it's not just music videos. I use it for ads, for anything that I'm trying to make a little more eye-catchy. The Saber plugin is a great plugin to use. So now that we got him cut out and he's traced fully, all we need to do is hit Command S because we just linked it, remember, from Premiere Pro. And now when we're back in Premiere Pro, you can see now we got the blue outline tracing of him, right? So that's a really cool little effect I like to do. If we just hit sequence, render in to out, we'll let it render through so it plays back at full speed. And you can just see right here how dope that looks, you know, like that is so cool. Maybe he starts out like with the glowing outline in this clip and then maybe it like fades away a little bit. So, you know, we kept the layer, the original layer underneath this. So all I need to do to like fade away the glow outline is to change this top layer that's in After Effects. We're gonna keyframe the opacity from 100 down to 0. So, you know, the glow kind of like gradually fades out as the clip moves. So you can see right here, boom, like that is so sick to me, you know, like what a dope little effect just to add a little flair to your edit. Now obviously it's a lot of work to get this point, but you know, if you want great looking music videos, you got to spend the time and put in the legwork to incorporate a lot of these little effects like this to obviously create something beautiful. You know, you want to create a dope visual. These effects take time. You just got to be patient. We're going to go ahead and move on to our third and final rotoscope effect, which we're going to be using this clip for right here. It's just him in front of the car, which I thought would be a cool little clip. Now I'm going to recenter this clip here because it's a little off. So there we go. It's back and centered, full screen. So we got it perfectly where we want it to go. Now, I don't want to rotoscope and do this effect on this clip right away. I kind of want it to start creeping in towards like the second half of this little cut. So what we're going to do is just cut this clip right down the middle. And we're just going to take this second half of this clip. We're going to right click it. We're gonna hit nest, okay? And we're just gonna hit okay. And then from here, we're gonna right click it again. We're gonna come up to replace with After Effects composition. And again, we have it back in After Effects. So now what I wanna do is we're gonna just duplicate this layer, right? So we have the original underneath. And on this top layer, we're gonna go ahead and trace him out from the background. So here it is again, guys. We're gonna be rotoscoping. We're gonna be tweaking the rotoscope brush, you know, tweaking the tracings. Obviously it thinks that some of this grass under here wants to belong in this tracing, which we don't want no grass in this tracing. So we're just gonna remove that, go along the edges here, and we're gonna go ahead and just hit that 2 that number 2 on our keyboard just to tab over a little bit here and to just keep this rotoscope moving. So as you can see, just making some fine-tuning adjustments as I'm moving through the frame here, and it's gonna rotoscope pretty much perfectly here. So there we go, we're at our last frame. It rotoscoped out great, and we're gonna go back to our composition, right? So our original layer is still here underneath. If I turn that off, here we are, we have our rotoscope layer, okay? So this is a good way where you can change like the background or the person and keep one or the other the same, right? So for this example, we're gonna be changing the background. We're gonna make the background kind of like zoom around as he stays in the same spot. So it's gonna be a really cool effect. So what I'm gonna do now is just call this bottom layer, we're gonna call this the background layer, and this one up top, we'll call this the rotoscope, okay? Just to stay organized. And now what we need to do is adjust our composition size, right? So this composition is 1920 by 1080. What is 1920 times 4? It's 7,680. So we're gonna change our composition size to 7,680, okay? So we're gonna do composition settings up here at the top. We're gonna change this size to 7,680, right? The width. We're gonna keep the height the same, right? That doesn't matter. So as you can see, this clip is still here in the middle, which is great. Now what we're gonna do is just duplicate this background layer. So we're just gonna hit Command D on our background layer, and we're gonna drag it over here on the left. We're gonna line it up, perfect. And we're gonna do the same thing on the right, you know, line it up, beautiful, just like that. We get this long composition, and you know, this doesn't belong in the music video. So what we need to do, now that we have a background on either side, we're just gonna go ahead and nest all these backgrounds together, which in After Effects is called pre-comp. So we're just gonna go to pre-compose right here. We're gonna call these the background. So all those 3 background layers are now in one background layer, and I can just turn that off and back on. So you can see we got the one dude still in the middle and the background layers on either side. So now what we need to do is change our composition size back. So we're gonna go back to our composition settings, change it back to 1920, and as you can see now, we're back and it looks normal, right? So what we need to do is change this background position. We're gonna drag it over, okay? We're gonna drag it to where it lines up here with the leftmost background, okay? So right about there, looks perfect, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and keyframe the position right there, okay? So that's where we want it to start. Now what we wanted to have it do is slide through all these other backgrounds. So watch this, guy. So as I move this background, you see him, he's staying in the same position, right? So that is really trippy. It's a really cool effect, and we can just make it go all the way to the end like this. And this is how it'll end over here. And we'll drag this keyframe all the way to the last part. Now what I do like to do also with this is to add some easy ease to this first keyframe. So we're gonna right click on this first keyframe, go to Keyframe Assistant and hit Easy Ease Out. And that's just gonna make it a little bit smoother. And then the last step that is really gonna make this look good is we're gonna go ahead and turn motion blur on for this layer. And so as it moves, you get that blurriness. So now the effect looks like this, right? It looks really cool. It's a really good way to transition in music videos. So now when I hit Command S and we save that back into Adobe Premiere Pro, we can kind of get a taste for what this is gonna look like in the actual music video, right? So what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna render this little segment so we can see what this looks like in full motion. So again, I went up to the sequence, render into out. You can see it just rendered right here, and we'll go ahead and check this out in full motion. So check this out, guys. Boom. You combine this with like a little flash transition or something, I mean, you're gonna be looking real nice. Like, that is a dope transition. Now I do notice a little bit that the Easy Ease Out is a little bit like harsh. So what I wanna do is just come back here into Adobe After Effects, click on this Easy Ease Out keyframe where the background starts to move. I'm gonna hit this graph editor, and I'm just gonna tweak this line a little bit. Now you wanna make sure you're on the edit speed graph value, right? And you can get to that by clicking on this little down menu here at the bottom. You wanna make sure that you're editing the speed. So as I adjust this knob here at the front, you're gonna see this slope, right? And this is our keyframe slope. So as you can see, it's gonna gradually get faster as the clip moves forward, right? So you can adjust kind of how these keyframes react with this graph editor, which is really cool. It's a good way to get smoother slow motion. I'll hit Command S, hop back here into Adobe Premiere Pro. again, you know, it's gonna give me that red because it needs to re-render. So we're gonna come up here to sequence, render in to out. Obviously it doesn't take too long. You'll see it change here in a second from red to green, boom. And now we can just watch this back in full motion. And you know what? Let's just go ahead and turn up the tunes. You guys can see what this looks like with the actual music video music track. So check this out. Yeah, so very dope. Honestly, what I would do with this is I would add one of my light leaks to the end of this just to add a little flare on top of it, which if you guys are interested, you can download these light leaks on my website, venturvisuals.com, and they're just a bunch of like little light flashes like these, okay? So very like little light flares that add a lot of flavor to your music videos. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take this one for now. I'm gonna drag it in, and of course it's a black background, so what do we need to do? Change the blend mode from normal to screen, and that's gonna go ahead and get rid of the black background. And now you can see we get a little flare happening up here. If I scroll over, you know, you can see it start to react. But we want it to happen, you know, pretty in sync with this transition. So right here, maybe a little sooner, boom, right there. So it's like very bright as it changes, right? So let's just go ahead and check out what this looks like now that we added a little light leak on top of it, okay? And I guarantee you it's gonna add a little more flavor, so check this out. All right, here we go. Up now. Coming at you like no other, your brother, your sister, your... Yeah, so there you go. Coming at you like no other, your brother, your sister. So when you combine the rotoscoping with the light leaks, man, you get some saucy visuals. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button down below. And if you're a creative person who's interested in being a part of a community that's growing, where all the creatives want to help each other grow and get better visuals, hit that subscribe button too. We're going at it with the tutorials this year, and we're going to be dropping some sweet packs on venturvisuals.com. I got transitions, overlays, Lightroom presets, light leaks, and more, some of which you can see obviously in this tutorial, but I have all that stuff available on my website, and you can even try out all these packs for free by downloading the free pack. I really appreciate all the support I get on this channel. I'm still a small YouTuber. I have 863 subscribers as of Friday, January 21st, 2022. And I'm really dedicating this year to growing this channel and experiencing this growth with all of you out there in the audience. So I really appreciate everybody who's tuned into my videos and has gained value from my videos and maybe even checked out my website. I really appreciate all the love and support I get. Any feedback you have, let me know down below. And I'm very excited for this week of tutorials. It's gonna be a good week, and I hope everybody out there is having a great day. So again, guys, I really appreciate y'all tuning in. Until next time, I'm Jake Venner. Peace out.